we're doing two Israel topics today. We'll be talking about the Columbia and the protest movement in general, and also today, Biden also happened to make a statement about it, which I hope you guys saw because I will be discussing it. But I want to start with the legislation that was passed today. Was it today or yes? I think it was yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
The Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, which essentially makes the Education Department adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism, which is a very, very, very broad definition. And most of the things in it are totally fine.
Yes.
And okay, most of it is totally fine. Like accusing Jews as people or Ethno-state of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. Yeah, no, I would consider that anti-Semitic. However, there are some very iffy things in there, such as drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis, which doesn't make any sense. How is that anti-Semitic in any way? It like if they're doing things which would relatively draw comparisons, it's just anti-Semitic because why exactly? I don't even understand. And there were other ones. There was the other big one was denying Jewish people their right to self-determination, e.g., by claiming that the existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor, which again doesn't make any sense because what fucking ethnicity has the right to self-determine? What other ethnicity do we go out and go like, yeah, no, black people, they should have their own country. They have the right to self-determination. Like that doesn't make any sense. We don't say that for anyone else. To say that, yeah, no, I don't think black people should have their own country where they're allowed to include all black people and exclude people of any other ethnicity. I don't think that's a racist statement. So I don't understand why anyone with a thinking brain would say that it's an anti-Semitic statement to say that about Israel. I don't know. I'm sure I'm not going to be disagreed with you here by you here, TJ. But I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Oh, could you imagine if I just
if you were just like, no, fuck it, that's anti-Semitic.
What? I didn't know I had an anti-Semite on this show. But so about this, like what you just said there, where that's a weird. A lot of it's weird, but like that one part where it says any comparisons of the nation state of Israel's and the actions of the nation state of Israel to the action of Nazis is anti-Semitic. Are you kidding me? Like what?
I've heard Holocaust survivors say that. Like Holocaust survivors have done that. You tell me they're anti-Semitic?
Well, I mean, let's say they were wrong. Let's say they were wrong and they were actually doing it incorrectly. What if the government of Israel said, yeah, we're gonna do a Holocaust, like they just announced it. Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna start wearing swastikas. We're gonna call our army stormtroopers. You still can't say it, like, because that's what it says. It's like even if they
shouldn't there be caveat? Shouldn't there be
exactly
says
say what?
Shouldn't there be like a caveat in there that says you can't compare them to the Nazis unless they are acting like
exactly. It's a ridiculous statement. It's like no matter what they do, you can't say no, fuck you. That's insane.
TJ, I love my favorite part of it that we're kind of glossing over here is the word contemporary in that sentence, because they're like, yeah, no, it would be absurd to not compare old Israeli policy to the Nazis. Like that was clearly similar to the Nazis. So that's not anti-Semitic. It's the contemporary policy that it's like a Freudian slip. The contemporary Israeli policy.
Yep. You know what I just thought of? So I don't necessarily love when people do this appeal to authority and stuff, because I'm going to talk about Einstein. So I reference Einstein occasionally when I talk about socialism, because Einstein believed that socialism was like the most obvious and effective way to run an economic system, because he's like, capitalism is going to collapse. It's not going to work. And I was like, well, listen, like just because, and I agree, like, just because Einstein says something was good doesn't mean it was. Einstein was human. He wasn't God. He could have been wrong. But I do like to bring it out whenever, capitalists or libertarians like, yeah, you socialists just don't understand math. Okay, you cannot say that. You cannot look me in the eye and tell me
Einstein understood math. He can say a lot about him, but he got that.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing we can all agree on, Einstein pretty good in the math department. So I like to bring that up with him. But with the project of Israel, Einstein was approached to not only immigrate to Israel, but to I think be the president. Like they wanted him to run for president, and he says, "Fuck no." He said, "No, I'm not doing that." He said the actions of like Ben Gurion and the Israeli government reminds me of the Nazis. Like those were his exact words. Like he wrote like an article or an op-ed in the New York Times saying that. So you folks are going to tell me that Albert fucking Einstein was an anti-Semite? Like you really want to play this game here? So that's kind of insane. And that's a good point with the example I use is the Native Americans, but with I can't remember who I heard say something about this about like black people that. It was Destructo Juco who was on the show a while ago too. But so like my ancestors, you go back far enough, or would have been somewhere, in West Africa. It would be insane for me to say, all right, millions of those West African descendants, we have the right of self-determination to return to the land of our ancestors, displace everyone there, kick them out of their houses, kick them off or better yet, we'll carve out a land for ourselves and we'll split it, give ourselves the most arable land and give them the shit land that you can't grow anything on, and give us access to all the ports and everything, and then you guys can get the shitty areas. And if you try to question me, it's like, well, my ancestors were here hundreds of years ago. So it's like, no, that's insane. You would never do something like that. And the one that I didn't mean to reference Marjorie Taylor Greene multiple times, but I have to do this because one of the stipulations that was said in there was an actual anti-Semitic, that was an anti-Semitic trope in which it talks about any appeals to the collective, the collective responsibility of the Jewish people for the death of Christ, and saying that, the Jews killed Jesus, and that's why they deserve all the punishment they can get and everything. Yeah, there is a long history of that in the Western Hemisphere, thousands of years. And one person who voted against this bill was Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I was like, oh, I wonder why she did. For the worst possible reason, it was because of that right there. She came right out loud. She says, I voted against it because according to this legislation, if I were to say, hey, Jesus was crucified by the Romans, and it was the Jews that handed him over. If I said that, it could be a crime. And it's like, all right, you picked the worst possible reason to vote for this.
Of all the reasons you could have
all the fucking reasons, man. And it's like, you're not beating the anti-Semitism allegations. But those are my thoughts on it. What do you think, Todd?
I think what you just talked about, every brainwashed, indoctrinated asshole that I know on social media right now saying turn Palestine into a parking lot and Israel's God's chosen people and they can do no wrong, and if a nation blesses them, God will bless that nation. Every single one of those people say the exact same trope that you just talked about. They would all be quick to say, but them Jews, they killed Jesus. Like these people, they love Israel. I had no idea how many batshit crazy people I knew until all that. Like I knew that people backed Israel, right? I knew, Israel's God's chosen people. I knew that that's there. I grew up in that. But watching it become this thing that I can't even say, hey, maybe Israel shouldn't level entire cities and neighborhoods and kill tens of thousands of innocent people and tens of thousands of children. Maybe they shouldn't kill humanitarian workers, maybe, without somebody going, you're an anti-Semite. Like, I would have never thought that would ever be something that I could be accused of for just saying, hey, you know what? Maybe they shouldn't level an entire country and commit a genocide. I mean, maybe you guys aren't shocked by this, but just the development over the last several months of this being a controversial issue. Like the people I know, all the dumbasses I know on my timeline right now are like, by God, what are they teaching these kids in these colleges? They indoctrinating them. And why? Because they say stop bombing the shit out of innocent people. That's indoctrination now. Like, instead of going, well, I guess we raised these kids right. No, the colleges are indoctrinating them because they value human life.
Yeah, it really, one of the things, about this entire conflict that has really pissed me off is back in September, I had the same exact position I do now, but at the very least, I could be like, well, the people who support Israel that I know, in day-to-day life, like, they don't know diddly shit about this conflict. They just it didn't like personally affect me that so many people supported Israel. It was just like, oh yeah, the generations of propaganda, like people don't know what's going on here. Now that we're in month 7 of this thing, it's like, okay, you've had time now to research this position. It's been broadcast everywhere what's going on here. And you still support this shit? You still, like, we're having the majority of the House of Representatives, Democrats included, going, yeah, saying that the Jews shouldn't have a specific ethno-state is anti-Semitic. Yeah, that's insane to me. It's absolutely insane to me. And it really does, like, it's hard for me to get over that with people now, because it's like TJ alluded to earlier, it's not complicated. It's very clear and obvious what is going on here. They started it by calling it a settler colonial state. There was a clear and obvious ethnic cleansing. They are currently occupying the West Bank, which isn't even anything to do with Hamas. And you're telling me that, like, criticism of that is fucking anti-Semitic, that the people protesting that are making Jews feel unsafe because they're Jewish. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. And before, it was allowed to not make any sense because no one knew about it. But now that everyone knows about it and they're still arriving at that conclusion, I don't know how people are doing it. It really, I don't understand it fundamentally to my core.
I was gonna ask, so John, you grew up Catholic, and Todd, did you grow up very religious at all?
Yeah, I grew up Baptist, and I actually I was preaching when I was in my early 20s.
Okay, so you probably did run across a lot of people who were, those who bless Israel shall be blessed, and those who curse Israel shall be cursed. I remember in the church, like, so end times eschatology, which I kind of redundancy, the eschatology is a big deal, and the creation of the nation state of Israel was a major moment, because the Bible mentions Israel in Revelation, but Israel stopped existing thousands of years ago. And so now it's like, oh, this is it. This is the last step. Now that Israel's here, we can have the rapture. We can have the battle of Armageddon. We can have the 144,000. We can have the 7 seals. We can have all this stuff to bring about the end of the world. And support of Israel was always like a really big deal among circles I was in. And I mean, the kind of Baptist that I grew up in, it was essentially, I mean, calling them Baptists is kind of this is kind of an insult to the tradition of Anabaptist Christianity, because it was just a civic religion that worshiped the United States and conservatism. But they always the people I knew made a huge deal about, we need to support Israel no matter what, no matter what they do. You can't question them because those are God's chosen people, which is ironic, like we were mentioning before, because the whole point is that they all die, and then to bring about the rapture. So I found it odd that you'd run across a lot of those folks, because I definitely did.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like what John said. Yeah, I knew tons of those people back in the day, but yeah, it was like most of them were just dumb and didn't know any better, and they didn't really have a genocide in front of them. Most to really analyze and make that part of their worldview and make it make sense. But yeah, I don't I don't know. I just it really is crazy. Like I'm seeing people and hearing people say the things that John talked about, like, hey, you cannot, like, these kids who are just setting up tents saying free Palestine are making Jewish people across the United States feel uncomfortable and feel like antisemtism is on the rise. Yet then we've got people like Bernie Sanders, who's Jewish, who says no, like, this is terrible, this is awful, and so many other Jewish people who are saying the same thing, but they're completely discounted. And I don't know if you've seen any of these videos of like people in Congress speaking to reporters and getting deeply biblical about why they're doing what they're doing and why they're voting the way that they're voting. Well, because in order for Jesus to come back, I mean, I saw probably 3 congressmen this week say, well, in order for Jesus to come back and the second coming to happen, we have to do X, Y, and Z to help Israel for those things to happen. Like, what century is this? Like,
yeah, absolutely. It's very disturbing. Lauren Boebert was one of them. I saw her just today at a rally, and she literally quoted that, Israel, if you bless Israel, you shall be blessed, and everything, as if that matters, like some biblical passage and shit. But people on the floor of Congress have talked about how important it is to back this like 70-year-old state, as if it's the same thing as the nation that existed thousands of years ago in antiquity. And narrator brought up a great point here that a greater percentage of Christian evangelicals identify as Zionists than American Jewish people. It's true. It's 100% true, because it is a major part of that philosophy. And what did he say on here? When the average American ever cared about the death of brown people, especially a majority Muslim population? Yeah, our track record ain't great on that. It ain't great, but they love, like, the Christian evangelicals. Like, they will talk about the what is it called? The annihilation of desecration, where a pig is sacrificed on the altar on the Temple of the Mount, and the red heifer will appear. They will say this with a straight fucking face, like these ancient legends, and try to tell you, well, this is what we need to craft our policy around. It is terrifying, because, like you said, like, what year is this? Like, if someone went to Congress, if someone stood up and said, all right, we've got a problem here with inflation, and we got to deal with it, but I know what the issue is. It's witchcraft. We need to do something to
burn those witches.
If someone said that, it would be like an immediate disqualifier. Like, okay, no.
That's the word I wanted to say. It should be disqualifying. Like, no one should vote for that person. Even if you are a fucking Christian, like, how can you vote for that person? Like, just, how can your values be that way? Like, it's insane to me.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like, and look, I'm out of my angry atheist phase. I've grown out of it, but Jesus, stuff like this starts happening, and I have no choice but to revert back into it. They force me in, and I don't like that we just give deference to people based solely upon the fact that they're religious. Where you say, oh, this is a good person, he's a man of God. As if that means anything to me. As if that, like, oh, so he must be a good guy because he worships this God. And
there's also never been examples of bad guys throughout history. Who are men of God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cortez, classic Cortez, man of God. Very, very good man.
Spotless record on people doing things in the name of God. Yeah, it hasn't happened. Sorry, Todd, what were you going to say?
I think one of the things that's really opened my eyes with all of this is just to see, like, I get that the people who grew up going to church for their entire lives, who were, in some holler listening to or spout this shit for their whole life, and they really don't have that much of an education. I fully expect for them to go, well, Israel's got people in the story, whatever they do, they can do. I've seen people who are college professors who I respected up until this point be like, I support #Israel. Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I don't know how to make sense of some of this stuff. Like I fully get Trump likes the uneducated. Those people are go Israel no matter what. But the number of people who I'm like, You were supposed to be educated out of this indoctrination. How are you still here?
Yeah, it is weird. And the two defenses that you'll hear generally are one. So narrators put on here that obviously Palestinians are more closely related to Jewish people of Israel from thousands of years ago than the diaspora Jews who that settled there since the late 19th century. So with that, yeah, it's accurate, but I don't care.
It's accurate, but irrelevant. Yeah.
I don't care. I don't give a fuck. It's like, not that I'm not disparaging a narrator when you're trying to cut the argument, but the whole premise that, my ancestors lived here 2,000 years ago, therefore this land is mine, is absurd. Like you would never let that fly anywhere else. And so that's one of the arguments they use. And the other argument is the religious one. And they're both crazy. And because imagine, just say it out loud. Yeah, this stretch of land belongs to me because I asked God and he said it was okay. Really? And so it's like, I think it was Sam Harris who has, like, trust me, I'm not backing. So Sam Harris has a lot of horrible shit, but he said something that really made me laugh, that when it comes to prayer, like, no one looks down on people who pray, as much as Christians like to pretend they do. But if you sit down at a restaurant, you pray, no one's going to say anything. In fact, they'll leave you alone until you're done praying before they come talk to you. Mm-hmm. If you say, I'll pray for you, I'll pray for someone, people take it as a nice gesture, because in a way it is. You're thinking of them and everything. But think of how ridiculous this is. Like, if you saw me, talking to God through this screwdriver, and I was like, okay, if I had this screwdriver, I can talk to God, I can give him messages or whatever. Prayer is just removing the screwdriver. Like, why is it more acceptable when I don't? It's insanity. So people, reverting to that, it's like, no, it doesn't make any sense at all. And how far in the fashion? Well, we can get to that in a little bit later. That's actually the next topic.
We'll answer your question in tomorrow's episode.
Yes, very good, very good.
Actually, it might be today's episode. I really don't know how we're going to release these things, but there will be another episode of The Left Wing for people who aren't watching live, where we discuss the protests, and we're going to move on to that now. All right, guys, if you have made it this far in the video, you're probably like me and absolutely losing your mind right now and feeling like the entire world is taking crazy pills because absolutely nothing makes sense. But luckily for you, we're here to make sense of it for you. And so is our wonderful guest this week, SupermanTodd. Superman, if our audience wanted to find you somewhere else, they liked what you had to say today, where can they do that?
Hey, I'm just pretty much only on TikTok at SupermanTodd 2. I had a pretty good following on TikTok before I got permanently banned about a year or so ago. So my following's not nearly as big as it was, but just SupermanTodd 2, kind of known as the Southern Liberal. So just hit me up on TikTok and we'll have a good time together.
Appreciate it, Todd. His account was banned by my other account. Lex Luthor TJ was responsible for taking that down. So it was a pretty good time, but we appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to tune in next week.